Good morning from Orte, a town on the border between Lazio and Umbria. It's a warm morning, but it's very overcast, and the forecast for today is to basically stay the same. Today we'll be walking to Soriano nel Cimino, a small town at the base of Monte Cimino. Starting off with, as usual, a very steep walk. We gain about 300 meters in about 2 kilometers, but we should, if we get a little bit more sort of clear air, we should get some interesting views as we get up onto the plateau, but we'll talk more about that later. Maybe I need to watch out because it's Wednesday today, so we'll have to keep our eyes peeled and keep a listen out just in case. We're at about 300 meters now, so we've gained roughly 250 meters since we started. We're about 3 kilometers in. We've done about 50% of height gain. The views are starting to open up now, and we're walking through the Cimino Hills, which is a volcanic area here in northern Lazio. Very, very fertile farming area. The route I'm walking is the Club Alpino Italiano, route 103, so the Italian Alpine Club's walking route 103. It's also called Trekking Tuscia. It's a 7-day hike. It's actually divided into 8 stages, but the first stage is only about 9 kilometers, so I'm combining the first and the second stage of the walk today. So for me it'll be 7 days between Orte in the east and Tarquinia in the west. It follows a route pretty much east-west through the northern part of Lazio. Very, very beautiful, and actually not a very frequently visited part of Italy, but really, really worth the time and the effort. As you can see, it's very easy walking. We're off the tarmac roads, but we're still on surfaced roads. All of the roads around here are used for access to farms and farmland, and at the moment it's the beginning of harvest. So I have seen a couple of vehicles going through with the hazelnut harvest on the back. I expect to see a few more of those over the course of the day. We are now on the path heading pretty much due west to Vasanello. It's a small village where I'll be taking a short break, get a coffee and something to snack on. The path is incredibly easy to follow, and because there are so few alternative routes that you can take, there are very few side tracks or anything. It's actually really well signposted. Every single turn has been signed very, very clearly, so no problems there. Weather hasn't quite stuck to the forecast. We're getting a little bit of rain, a few spots of rain, nothing too serious, certainly not requiring waterproofs. And the sun keeps on trying to break through, but there's a lot of cloud around. It's sort of very high, thin cloud. But hopefully I can see a little bit of blue sky ahead. We'll get some sun maybe later in the day, and bring this beautiful woodland to life. As you know, if you've seen any of my other videos, walking through woodland is one of my favourite things to do, especially when the sun is shining. But even when it's not, it's still beautiful. Really, really, really fantastic to be doing this walk. walking through prime agricultural land. At the moment it's hazelnut trees. A couple of minutes ago it was vines, so wine production, and a little bit before that we were walking through olives. As I said at the beginning, the hills, the Cimino hills, are volcanic in origin, very gently rolling with very, very fertile soil, so it's to be expected. I think a little bit further on, after Vasanello, we get more into the hazelnut production, but I'll find out when I get there. Just leaving the town of Vasanello, perched on its cliffs above its river valley, very typical of the towns in this part of Lazio actually. Stopped, had a coffee, a bite to eat, feeling good and refreshed, and ready to carry on to Soriano. So it's an interesting walk. I already said this land, this area is intensely cultivated. And what it means is that the route never quite loses that feeling of habitation. It's remote, but it's not wild. The roads are all surfaced. There haven't been more than sort of 10-15 minutes at a time where I've been without vehicles passing. It's a very old inhabited area. The Etruscans are recorded here. In fact, Orte, where I started, is an old Etruscan settlement, and it was taken over by the Romans and basically any major group who came into this area. So it's enjoyable, but it's not a wild walk. We're down in one of the valleys, one of the river valleys, which is very gorge-like. Actually walking through an archaeological area, but unfortunately it's closed. The entrance was closed, so I can't go in to have a bit of a poke around. But it covers everything from Etruscan period, the Roman period, medieval period. There are remains of churches, towers, tombs, but definitely worth the look if you have the chance to get down here. So some more of the absolutely excellent signage for this route. Pretty much every junction has been signposted, so very, very easy to follow. You could probably, wouldn't recommend it, but you could probably do it without a map if you needed to. And just for the record, that is actually 2 hours 40 minutes, not 2.4 kilometres, so still a little way to go. About 15 kilometres in, still walking through the hazelnut trees. Basically, if you ever wondered where your Nutella comes from, quite a lot of it comes from here. I can, for the first time today actually, I can hear shooting in the distance. This particular area is no hunting area, but obviously somewhere fairly close off to my left, hunting is allowed. So I think I'm far enough away not to have to worry about it, but it's a slightly disconcerting sound to have happening when you're out alone walking. First time we're off a surface road on this walk, but as you can hear, that doesn't mean that we're removed from human activity. They're actually, from what I can see, they're harvesting hazelnuts. just to my right. But it's nice to be off the roads. It feels a lot better underfoot, for if nothing else. I think one of the things that is striking me about this walk is just how quiet it is, especially compared to the last walk with the wild fields and the birds and the insects. It's incredibly quiet. There are virtually no birds, there's no bird song, there are virtually no insects, there's flies, but there's not that sense of life that you had. So looking around, I understand that it's a crop, but it's a real kind of monoculture, and it doesn't feel alive. It's very monotonous as you're walking. It's not my favourite part of the walk, to be honest. But we're a couple of hours to go now, and hopefully we're going to come into some natural woodland soon. So we'll see how that goes, see if it improves the feeling of the walk. Here we are, back in the native woodland. Looks like a natural beech forest. Very, very beautiful. The birds are back, the insects are back. The walk is finally starting to feel like we're entering into nature now. About 5 kilometres from Soriano. The woodland didn't last very long, no more than about 1.5 kilometres, 2 kilometres, and then we were back onto actually quite a main road. We're now walking along, it's a surfaced road, but the sign at the beginning of it said no vehicles except for the school bus, so I'm guessing it's for the local kids to get into their school in Soriano. So we shouldn't see any traffic, but we do have a nice slow and steady ascent up to Soriano now, and we've got the first rain. It's just a few spots, but the forecast for tomorrow is now forecast for more than 50% chance of thunder, and as tomorrow's walk is basically quite high, I need to have a think about what to do. So we'll see. But we're probably 40 minutes out of Soriano. I'm not rushing, just taking my time, walking through hazelnut groves. Nothing's changed there. And it's the best view we've had so far. You can see the castle, castle of the Orsini family, which sits right at the top of the hill that Soriano is on. So I think that gives you a clear idea of the drop down and then the climb up that it still has to come. So taking it nice and slowly, but quite impressive. Getting closer. Got about another 40-50 metres to ascend, and then I do a big curve into one of the roads that you can see just about here. So the last kilometre there was a real sting in the tail at the end of the day. Just having a rest, and then we'll push on to the main piazza in the town, where I may treat myself to a beer. I think I've deserved it.